So, to continue off my discussion of what I was talking about, as far as the current state of American politics right now, but especially what's going on in the Democratic Party, I think it's because of all these progressive Democratic socialists winning these primaries, they're starting to realize that their guard of the party is dying off. And it's just absolutely true. It's evident. You look at elections all over the country, it's starting to happen. Their own voters are growing tired of the old party's leadership. It's called the Tea Party of the left. It's rising up. It's a real thing. You know, another DSA member just won a mayoralship in DC. All right, against against a corporate establishment Democrat, a typical Democrat, because people are tired of the neoliberal order of politics in America. Okay, you're seeing the rise of Graham Plattner in Maine. You're seeing, the big rise of Mondami in New York. You got other people all over the country. You got two Democrats running in a mayoral race in LA. Karen Bass and another lady in Nithi Raman, who I predict there might be a surprise upset there. Because if you look at Karen Bass's election forms, she does underperform expectations. She narrowly ekes it out usually, but she's not super popular. You could see that people are tired of the same leadership over and over. And this is not throwing shade at Karen Bass. I think Karen Bass overall is a decent person. I think she means well. She was a decent congresswoman from what I heard. So I'm not here throwing shade at her. I just think that people want to take a different direction now. People are tired of the status quo. Although I want to spill a little irony in this, that Nithya Raman actually endorsed Karen Bass re-election before she ran for mayor. But she ran and she didn't realize she would do as well as she did. So there's going to be a bitter feud in that election, obviously, because she effectively rubber stamped Karen Bass with her endorsement, but then decided to run against her, which wouldn't be surprised will be used against her many times over. So that election will be very much up in the air, but I do see a lot of elections around the country where a lot of DSA members are making serious gains. The new guard of the Democratic Party and the progressive movement's rising up, and some of these old Democratic establishment leaders are kind of starting to realize it now. They're acknowledging the reality. They're reading the room. They're realizing that no matter what they say and do, it's not going to have any effect on how the voters vote now. And you're going to see more of that around the country. And I said this a year ago. People were laughing at me. I said, no, I'm telling you, the Tea Party of the left is going to be a thing. And I said, if you think it's a one-off election here and there, like you think Mondami was just was it, I said that was just the beginning. And as you see what's going on, was I right or not? See, and that's the thing. I mean, because, I may not be out among the system, but I, like everybody else, who does pay attention to what's going on, I'm one of these informed people who do pay attention to what's going on out in the real world here. I acknowledge what's happening. I see it. Just because I'm not engaged in this system does not mean I don't see what's going on. It's not just an ideological thing, though. I think people are just sick of the status quo. And now you're even seeing Democratic Party people that are acknowledging that people are tired of the status quo. They're finally starting to read the room. They're realizing, if I have any future in politics right now, I have to dive in and read the room. I have to meet people where they're at. I have to go around the country and talk to people. I have to leave my political elite circle and bubble. Because they're realizing that wing of politics is dying. It's dying rapidly. And I'd argue it actually it was on death's doorstep when you saw the emergence of Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. Okay, it really was starting to happen in 2016, and I'd argue it started happening before then, because in 2014 the turnout was so low because people were so disenchanted in the last midterm election under Obama. Okay, I would argue, though, honestly, the real anti-establishment mood originally started as far back as 2008, when Obama ran as the change candidate. And Obama had that huge splash once in a lifetime He was that once-in-a-lifetime candidate who was aspirational to so many people. And when he ran for president, he surprised everybody and won. Because so many people were so engaged and so hopeful of wanting to see this country change for the better. They were desperate. They're like, please, we need change. We're tired of Washington politics as usual. And obviously that enthusiasm died down in his first term. But then the anti-insurgency establishment rose up on the right. And that's when you saw the Tea Party movement in 2010. So that anti-establishment fervor was getting stronger. With both parties, it was starting to happen. But this time, all the energy went to the right in 2010. So you saw Republicans surpass Democrats by 30 points in Democratic enthusiasm, or Republican and Democratic Party enthusiasm. So Republicans turned out in droves and voted for Tea Party candidates in 2010. Okay. Now, I'd argue that's a different movement than the left, obviously. They were funded by the Koch brothers and a lot of dark corporate money, which the Supreme Court gave floodgates to when they basically got rid of Citizens United. So that's a whole nother discussion about the corrupt campaign finance system of our politics. But that anti-establishment fervor happened stemming off Occupy Wall Street, the mortgage crisis, and all the other shenanigans that the political elite continue keeping going and doing nothing to help regular people. Okay, people are fed up. All right. Now, obviously, the Tea Party was a grift. All right. Then we get into 2012. The Republican Party couldn't get their act together and figure out what leader they wanted to pick. Mitt Romney was the guy they nominated. He was literally Bain's Capital's image. He was corporate America. All people saw was corporate America when they looked at Mitt Romney. So he ran against Obama. And again, a lot of people were unhappy with Obama by his second term. By the time he was running for his second term, a lot of voters were disenchanted. Turnout went down almost half when he ran for re-election compared to the votes he got in 2008. But he still won. And he won pretty comfortably against Mitt Romney because people were like, no, Mitt Romney's an elitist. And I tell people, this is how politics work. People vote for the guy with the most charisma, who is the most populist outsider kind of candidate. Okay, it happens. Every election it's like this. So 2012 happened. Obama got reelected. Now, there's stories that Trump wanted to run in 2012, and people talked him out of it, which probably for his fact he listened that time was smart, because he was never going to beat Obama. But then 2014 rolled around. That was a very, very depressing, low turnout midterm election. Hardly anybody turned out. And of course, that benefited the GOP at the time, but it's just because a lot of voters didn't turn out in 2014. It was like record low turnout. The American people were just pissed, and they wanted change again. And then by the time the 2015, 2016 presidential elections rolled around, you saw the rise of Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump. All right, I'm going to discontinue this one and go on to the next video. But anyways, I'll see y'all later. Have a great day. Have a great night. Goodbye. Love y'all.